سيدنا محمد الذي تنحل به العقد وتنفرج به القرب وتقضى به الحوائج وتنال به الرغائب وحسن الخواتيم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikumsalam, Prof.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baik, Prof.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
So,
Ramadan Kareem. Yeah.
Ramadan Kareem. Taqabbal Allah minna minkum salih amal inshallah. Barakallahu fikum, Prof.
Inshallah. Yeah. We just wait for 1 minute. I have a meeting at 9:30. So we try to finish. Yeah. So in 1 hour's time.
Inshallah.
So we'll try to finish by 9:15, 9:20. I will speak maybe just 20 minutes the most. Yeah.
Inshallah.
And then you take it out from there. I have some slides, but we'll see how we go through. Just give me a second. Let me close the door. Give me a second. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Majid.
Yes, I'm here.
I already forward to you the slides from Dr. Syed.
Yes. So now we start now or wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
I think we can start at 8:30. One more minute. 8:30 already. Because Dr. Syed, you have meeting, right? At 9:30?
Yes, yes. I'm meeting at 9:30. Yeah.
Okay. We start inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
We start now, Pak.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على النبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, on behalf in Islamization of human knowledge, we are glad to start this session. We start recite Surah Al-Fatiha to seek barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim.
Our brother and sister, inshallah, today we have a very important topic, Dawah approach in the contemporary society, Islamic finance and Dawah tool in navigate sanctity of al-mal. Just I want to highlight 2 minutes in this topic. Of course, we are Muslim and we believe Islam make combine between worship and work, and of course this is very important topic because it is specialized in our field, and we must to be contribute in this topic. And also, you know, when we talk about taqdis al-mal in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned more than 50 verses. الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. Okay, so it is difficult to talk about Islam without work, without contribute in society. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he described mal as a khair. وإنه لحب الخير. Okay, khair, goodness. And also he said أموالكم التي جعل الله لكم فيها قيامة. قيامة means established, foundation of our life. Okay, this is recognized from our deen to be to you can respect wealth. And also I think everyone comes in our mind about Abdulrahman Muad, also al-Ashr al-Mubashirin bil Jannah. 6 of them is wealthier and they have businessman. And very important, فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةِ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Okay, so when you fulfill the ibadah, spread in the land, seek from rizq. Okay, so I just highlight from this to emphasize our religion, respect wealth, and it is this is the privilege in our deen. okay, combine between soul and material. Okay, this is just introduce between our professor, Prof. Syed Musa. Yeah, you are welcome, Prof. And the microphone over you. تفضل جزاك الله خير.
Jazakumullah, brother Majid. I wish you can just continue. I'm beginning to enjoy the muqaddimah.
بارك
Yeah,
الله
because
فيك.
because very inspiring, and of course you're from a learned brother scholar, and so are our esteemed lecturers. I'm only here to share. Yeah, let me share my screen first. I'm only here to share.
If
Uh,
you want me to share, I will share. Okay.
no, I will share. I will share. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you see the screen now? Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yes, Prof.
Okay. So if I may begin, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Okay, the topic that was given to me is da'wah approaches in contemporary society. Islamic finance is a da'wah tool in navigating sanctity of al-mal. So this topic is a very challenging topic. Of course, it's very contemporary. I think it requires various perspectives, and I'm just giving a perspective, only my perspective. Going back 30 years since I got myself involved officially since 1994 in Islamic finance, particularly, of course, at different stages. And Alhamdulillah, what I will just do today is just to share, maybe in 15 or 20 minutes, some observation, some experience, and maybe our learned brothers can also help to contribute and enhance. And when necessary, if I stand to be corrected, please, I'm here to learn, yeah, and to share as much as possible. Now, when I was given this topic, I think there are three key words here. First, we have Islamic finance, da'wah, and then the sanctity of al-mal. Now, I may be working more on the da'wah and Islamic finance. The sanctity of al-mal, I wanted to add, but I think it ended up the slides a bit too much because I was looking at the sanctity of zakat, which is tazkiyatun nafs, and tadhhiratul qulub and tadhhirul mal, with reference to zakat, yeah, because it's both tadhhira and tazkiyah. But for the purpose of this discussion, I will just focus more on Islamic finance and da'wah first. Now, navigating is like you are on a ship, so you must know who you are and you must know your destiny. Otherwise, you will not be able to achieve your goal. So in Islamic finance, I think we've gone through quite a lot. And today I have like three topics, three or four. I'm just going to touch a little bit on the important principles and significance of da'wah. I will do a bit of recap of our two learned colleagues who have presented last week, some of the points that were discussed. And then I zoom in straight to the Islamic finance industry, and then I will talk a little bit about Islamic finance education before I conclude. Now, when we talk about the importance and significance of da'wah, I tried to do a bit of a search again to what the meaning of da'wah is. All right. And interestingly, it gives the root word, and of course, it relates to summon or to invite. And of course, when we look at da'wah itself, there are certain skills that we need to have. First, you must believe what you do. All right. Not just you do it for the sake of what others are doing. Second, you have to be sincere. Third, you need knowledge and involve amal. Now, what is interesting here in this particular context, it is the work that we actually do every day. All right, so the work that we do every day, if we treat it as ibadah, then it is actually a da'wah in itself, whether we speak about it or we just demonstrate. And also, we have to be perceptive. We have to always be aware of what's happening. And hikmah, I think this was discussed at length in the previous tazkirah. I don't think I have to go. Adab, I will touch a little bit about it. What has actually manifested in the Islamic finance industry, manfa'ah, what are the benefits, the husnul dhan, always thinking positive, always thinking well of others. I mean, you can't start with a negative mind. You sometimes, as a da'i, you need to be by yourself. All right, just the Prophet ﷺ at the Hira cave. And sometimes you have to be in the open where you have to interact and engage. The issue of due respect has got to be there, of course. And then the ta'awun. Very much we are familiar now when we talk about takaful. Yeah. Now, the essence of da'wah actually goes back to the very surah. I've got there are many verses that relate to da'wah. I've selected a couple. Here, I was looking at this very important verse. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوات الداعي إذا دعان. You know, when I read up to there, it became so clear that there are three words, that relate to this communication, this invitation, this engagement, this interaction. Subhanallah. And it brings me to the very cause to it, Basically, as it responds to the invocation of the one who makes the dua and who calls. And I am very close to you. What can we learn from here? All right. Now, if you want to approach someone or if you want to relate, you have to be very close. You have to be very familiar. You have to be a part of it. All right. So that you can be able to relate in the best manner. But here, I'm referring to the Khaliq and Makhluk. When Allah invite us, always invite us. So what is the essence? We are conveying that invitation. We are essentially conveying the invitation about this about this communication, about this truth. All right. And then, of course, in Surah Al-Baqarah, after we talk about Ayatul Kursi, 255 is Ayatul Kursi, the famous Ayatul Kursi. La ikraha fi din qad tabayyana rushd min al-ghayy. Now, the message that we want to send is something that is very clear, bayyinat. Yeah, it's so clear. It's so clear that there is no reason for whoever that listen to this message will have to say, I'm confused, I don't understand. I think we have seen so many examples now after the what happened in Gaza and so on, the genocide. Many those who start to read the translation, they found the Quran is very simple. I had the opportunity during one of my session with one I think French lady. I think she came at the time was with Amani, and she said in the Christianity they got confused about God. But when she read the translation of Surah Al-Ikhlas, it's very clear. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Very clear. Yeah, it's very, very clear. So if the message is so clear, all right, then why? Of course, this is where the challenge of the da'i is. All right, the challenge of the da'i is to extend this communication, of truth, and something that is very sincere. And then this very important word, this very important verse, Ud'u ila sabil rabbika bil hikmah wal mawzati al hasana wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan. Inna rabbaka huwa a'lamu biman dhalla an sabili wa huwa a'lamu bil muhtadin. So there are people, when we want to communicate with them, it has to be with hikmah. Now, hikmah, as already explained in the previous tazkirah, is very deep and very extensive. But of course, we have to start somewhere. Today, in the age that we live, we start with data. And today we get stuck, some of us, we get stuck only with data. We call it the data gets so big, we call it big data. But actually, the data moves to information, information to knowledge, knowledge moves to wisdom. Okay, so there are a few stages that we have to go through before finally we get what is the meaning and of course the benefits that will come from it. So in Surah An-Nahl, this verse 125 is the foundation. All right, it tells us what are the things that you need to observe, the fundamentals, in terms of being knowledgeable and wise. At the same time, when you convey, all right, you must do it in the best manner. All right. And on top of that, if they disagree, because they are bound to disagree, there will be differences and there will be those who refute. And Allah knows who are the one who will be able to receive the message and those who will, of course, be reluctant. Yeah. So we need to be ready, in other words, when we convey this. Now, these principles, all right, are again repeated many times, and and here we can see that the principles of Dawah itself is built on this. Now, these principles I just want to mention is to let us know that we, even though in any field of study, in any field of work, in any field of different, the same principles will apply. But the context is different. The approaches, I think we have to define and address accordingly. And of course, one of the things that we have to remove is any barriers, any misconceptions. And this has got to be done with lots of sincerity. Now I go to more specific topic, which is our industry itself. All right. Now I'm going to go through a bit of a chronology, because when we talk about navigation, we have to see about across time. All right. What are the steps that have been taken? How did we move from one stage to another? And what sort of challenges we face? So if I go back to 1983, 1983 was when IIiM was set up together at the same time Bank Islam, yeah, and you have the Islamic Banking Act. You see the statutes, the law that have been introduced. Indirectly, you can feel that the government is actually making serious efforts, all right, and demonstrating it and supporting. And all these serious efforts relate to the Hifzul Mal that we talk about, all right, and the Hifzul Deen itself, all right. And we will see some of the interpretation that I'm going to take, all right. But the process, as you can see, from the Banking Act to the Takaful Act, and then the Sharia Parameters 2009, I personally had the opportunity to be involved in the Sharia Parameters, and then the Islamic Financial Services Act, BNM Sharia Standards, and then ICF, all right, ICF worked out on an ecosystem, and then the Muamalat Standard, and the Sharia Governance Policy. And now we are talking about the Sharia Contract Framework. So the relentless efforts of policy, structuring, strategy, all right, is actually Dawah, all right, because it is manifested in a much institutional form. It is not just individual effort; it's a collective effort. But do we see this as Dawah, or do we see this as just legislative tools? I think this is the fundamental question. Yeah, because it is there, whether we know how to extend it, we know how to benefit it. I think this is the question that I just want to highlight. Now, when I go into specifics, all right, what struck me in 1983 was this particular interpretation. Yeah, what is Islamic banking business? It is the banking business whose aims and operation do not involve any element which is not approved, not by Sharia, but by the religion of Islam. All right. So essentially, Dawah was mentioned there, all right, when we talk about Deenul Islam. All right. So at that time, 1983, if you could recall, that was the first stage. The first stage where we formalized. Not that it's not there, because Tabung Haji was much earlier. All right, where we formalized the banking process. Of course, Pak Mus, if Pak Mus is here, Pak Mus can tell a lot of stories about the resistance and the challenges and so on. All right. And I did ask Pak Mus, why did we shift from religion of Islam to Sharia? Okay. And he himself was trying to figure it out. Maybe in his PhD he may have discussed. We look forward to his viva, inshallah, later. So the important phrase is the religion of Islam. It's comprehensive, it's meaningful, because it's going to cover everything. All right. And then in the Takaful Act, when I look at it, there was no mention. It was a year later, he mentioned about approved by Sharia. But we know Sharia minad din. Right? So you cannot separate Sharia from the religion. We cannot separate Sharia from the religion. So if we take an approach where we look at the deen itself, all right, and Sharia, you can look at two perspectives, from the sources of the deen itself, and you can look at the law that we implement. Especially now we look at the Sharia control functions only. Yeah, and even then also I have my comment. We should expand Sharia research as an important control function. When you look at the Islamic Financial Services Act, what do we get? All right, again, we begin to see that there is a important phrase there, which is to promote financial stability and compliance with Sharia. Okay. And so is the next. What is financing facility? It relates to Sharia. Now, if you look at the phrases again, you can see the kind of Dawah approaches that has been reflected in this policy document. One, which says that you promote are consistent with. The other, you say, do not include elements that contrary. Now, it gives us a certain philosophy in terms of the approach. I discovered this in my recent case study discussion in Isra, in Asas, with groups of Sharia committee and Sharia secretariat taking the case study. Well, we want to look at the philosophy of halal industry and the philosophy of Islamic financial service industry. And what is quite clear is, of course, subject to further research and deliberation, is the philosophy of the Islamic financial industry. We start with something that is haram. And now we have to turn it into something that is beneficial to the ummah. All right? Make necessary changes and so on. Whereas in the case of halal, it's already halal. But now we want to popularize it. So it's a different strategy. All right? A different strategy. But if you want to put the data together, and it's going to be very exciting to see how these two work together, yeah? Especially when you talk about value chain. Now, again, when we go into details, like what is Islamic banking business according to IFSA, all right, then we start to go into the more detailed description as compared to the previous. And then the investment account become very critical. In other words, without investment account, there is no Islamic banking business by virtue of the provision of finance and so on. So all this gives us the necessary direction, also gives us the necessary basis for us to understand. The question is, do we just limit to compliance, or do we extend it to reach to the soul? And tell what is the real benefit behind this? Why Islamic banking or Islamic finance takes the human world or the society to the next level? Right now, I move from there. I've got another, I think I will try to finish off another 10 or 15 minutes. We talk about Dawah with Islamic finance education. Now, this is something that I can share some from my notes material. For example, when we talk about wealth, yeah, how I do it is first I will break it down and say, okay, what are the aspects? If I look at it from activities, sources of livelihood, ownership, earning, spending, distribution, some very broad categories. But then what sort of attributes that we want to look at? Permissibility, legitimacy of contracts, equity and fairness, civility. Now, then we move to the financial services. Okay, how do all these relate to each other? I present it as a form of a gestalt. It's not yet a framework where you can draw relationships and so on. It's just a position of idea. But there are fundamental questions that every time when I share this with my students or with whoever want to discuss about wealth or mal, I say, what is the purpose? What is the maqsud? What is the meaning? What is ma'na? And what are the benefits? All right? Because if we don't ask this question, we miss the whole point. We move straight into, okay, how do I calculate the time value of money? What is the value? But why are you doing this? What do you want to achieve? What is the ultimate achieve? Now, then we go back to our fundamental role as a student, as a talibul ilm, as a mudir, mudarris. At the end of the day, what is the purpose of all this? Because if we just spend a little bit of time to ask what is the purpose of my teaching, not just to meet MQA document or some Bloom's taxonomy, that one is very technical to me. It's very technical. It has to be something bigger than that. Yeah. Then there will be a drive. There will be spirit to it. Yeah. Now this has got to become with a meaning. Meaning means we must be able to give some interpretation, some knowledge to it, to each of these terms that we use. All right. Because if we just take it from the West, right, and we adopt, sometimes we get corrupted, and sometimes it means something else, and then we have some serious problem, right? And what will be the benefit to the ummah, for example? Yeah. So these are just to give you some perspective. Now, the other thing that I found challenging when bringing da'wah into Islamic finance is the Sharia part is always very clear. But what are the finance issues? Then you will realize that you will have to come across to the problem, what we call the ethical problem of finance. All right, what is the ethical problem of finance? Essentially, if you look at agency problem and so on, they create what we call, I would say, they put in the salt of distrust. But they say men don't trust each other. All right. So based on that, they come up with a concept of agency problem and agency cost. Now, when we use their theory, do we agree with their assumptions or not? Of course, now I see more PhD theses talking about stewardship function rather than agency. Yeah, so we are trying to move away. Okay, that sounds to be closer, but still we have to look what are the underlying assumptions. So, in the case of doing da'wah in our research, doing da'wah in education, do we actually examine these fundamental principles and are these consistent with our principles? All right, so we can slowly make some migration. But even then, during that migration, you got to be very careful. Yeah, sometimes we thought we can use profit sharing ratio to address the problem of riba. Yes, maybe to a certain extent, but not in all cases. All right. So again, this requires more deliberation, thinking, and so on. Because by the time we want to convince those who are used to that particular model, how are we going to facilitate the change? All right. And I go into the definitions of Islamic finance. I have you can quote from some of the famous scholars. They have written books and so on. Yeah, either in the form of structure, roles, or certain features where Islamicity certification as Gamal. Al Gamal is quite a critic. That refers to Sharia compliance. Will that be enough? Now, if I want to turn it into a da'wah, what I've done is I look at it as a behavior. Okay, and this behavior can be habituated. All right, so this behavior is related to wealth, of course, utilization, creation, mobilization. But the fundamental criteria will be the deen, because that will shape the belief, that will shape the values, that will shape your intention. And I will show you the next diagram. And then this has got to be guided by the Sharia. So you have the Tawhidic worldview, you have the Sharia, and then with these principles, now we have the products, instruments, and so on. I always ask, what is so Islamic about the deposit? Is it the deposit or the person who actually take the deposit and give the deposit? So what is it? All right. Where is that belief? Where is that value? Right? Then, of course, we go into the bigger role and, of course, the ultimate maqasid Sharia. All right. Among them, of course, here we talk about Hifzuddin, Hifzul. Now, if I move on to what this behavior entails, I have another diagram here, which I used to share with my student. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, please. Sorry, this is, let me just stop this. Yeah. This was a recorded voice. Okay. So if we look at the behavior analytics, all right, everything that we do, even when we take ablution, we take wudu, begins with intention. If I wash my face without the intention, then it's just washing my face, right? Anything that we do, all right? So even in our activities every day, what is our niyyah? All right? And niyyah is so profound because it is the essence of dua, okay? And niyyah is so profound because it relates to belief. What you believe is what you intend. So I go back to the deen itself. And then, of course, when we want to conduct ourselves, we look at the Sharia, we look at all aspects. And what is the output? The akhlaq. Okay. Now, from the substance and form argument, this diagram came from substance and form. All right. Actually, it's essence, substance, and form, but I just reduced substance and form. So we talk about substance. What do you mean by substance? If you ask the accounting, they will say the consequences. All right. If you ask the Sharia scholars, it will say the intention. Al-umur bi-maqasidiha. All right. Now, if you look at legal form, it is the action, the contracts, the document that we show. All right. So when we relate this, all right, to our belief system, and we want to make it complete, shumul, we have to see all three. Anything you do, you ask. All right. We talk about risk. Risk is actually consequences. It's just like when you do a hijrah, when the Prophet ﷺ, either you hijrah for Allah and Rasul, or you hijrah because of a beautiful lady or a handsome man. Yeah. I mean, that will be the consequence. So it is something that is not separated from what we do every day. If only we are more conscious. Okay, if only we become adh-dhakirun, not ghafilun. And this is the fear today, that we may get lost along the process. Okay, I've already shared the slides, and you can have a look at it. Now, when I take accounting and take it as a da'wah, this is my slide basically. All right. What is the core of accountability? It's actually the language of accounting. And this is muhasabah. It talks about the trust, the amana. And what is the authority? What is the responsibility? Accountability? These are the ones that safeguard the trust. Today, we have a lot of problem of trust deficit. Yeah, you don't even trust your friend. You don't even trust your leader. You don't trust anybody. And then there's a crisis of confidence when you start catching everybody. You know, I was a police officer, so I understand what you mean by enforcement. And too much enforcement is bad. That means we need not do more prevention as compared to correction. All right, and you will decrease the confidence. You have to find a balance between prevention and correction. So it is about managing the trust. So it's in ibadah and da'wah. All right, what is the trust? What is the amanah? If you know that you are just Khalifa fil ard, all right, and Ibad Rahman, or Ibadullah, then you are very clear about this role. And then you can convey this message. Of course, this goes into Siddiq Amanah Tabligh Fatana. And how does this relate to the accountability in Islam? So these are things that we need to put. Now, when we go into what is true and fair, very big words, I tell you, fit and proper, all right, Qawiyun Amin, yeah, all this are so critical in our understanding of the religion and conveying in our message in our words. All right. And sometimes we miss, sometimes we were too engrossed in something else. Maybe we have to come back, have a look at it, and see how we can. So I've mentioned also the regulatory requirements, which, as I said, there's a lot of alignment already, and we can leverage on that. Just a short thoughts or process. Now, when I look at our recruitment process, I look at IIiBF particularly, all right? We have from the promotion and publicity of our program or university right up to the alumni. So I just list down the 12 stages. Now, if we want to put da'wah alive with our institute, then I have a few columns here. Which level are we in? Awareness, perception, cognition, acceptance, acknowledgement, execution, or habituation. Ultimately, it's a habit. Habit means it's tabi'an. Tabi'in, ihsan ila yawmiddin. All right? This habituation means what? It is almost automatic. That da'wah is automatic for IBF. Whenever we meet anyone, we actually do da'wah. All right? Or am I still calculating, is this compliant, non-compliant? That is more important. Of course, that is the first base. That is the first base. Then audit, then risk. But at the end of the day, it's the culture, is the belief, is the values. So these are some key points: true and sincere belief, purity and clarity of thought, discerning mind, righteous conduct, personal, institutional, society, industry. Finally, what we give birth is exemplary character and conduct. All this can be done. And I believe, inshallah, together with my dear brothers, I mean, IBF is always a family to me. Yeah, it's always a family to me. And I believe this family values the IBFS can do much more. In conclusion, it's 9 o'clock now. My target is, what is the moral compass, all right, in this da'wah? Of conveying truth, to reaffirm the belief, promote righteous conduct. Now, these are pertinent to all financial decision and opinion. We should be guided by Sharia to attain maqasid within the Tawhidic worldview or Islamic worldview. Now, wealth as a form of trust is protected by maqasid Sharia from any form of corruption, such as deception, usury, games of chance, unfair dealing, harmful activities, to protect and preserve communities. Now, of course, the sanctification. Now, that's the part I didn't get much to elaborate. Maybe my brother Abdulmajid can. The purification and sanctification of wealth. When we talk about sedekah, it is the truth, the reaffirming of the truth that this wealth belongs to Allah. And I always ask myself, are we ready to build this waqaf community if people are only thinking about taking more than giving? If we have a community that gives more than take, we will build waqaf communities. But if people are thinking, well, how much do I get? I think we will have a challenge. So maybe we have to go step by step. So purification, sanctification of wealth is complete only when the trust is delivered. Right? In fact, I recently asked Brother Azman, I said, fitrah, we collect throughout the month of Ramadan. Are we able to distribute the day just before Eid? Can we have an efficient system just before Eid? Every poor will have their food on the table, will have nice, beautiful clothes that they wear. Can we have that? So, or this will be kept until next year, So the challenge is there. the opportunity is also there, and inshallah, bi'idhnillah, we can work together on this. Wallahu alam. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, brother.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله
I'll
وبركاته.
stop share.
بارك الله فيك Prof for this valuable insights and fruitful speech. MashaAllah, you start with the principle of da'wah, then you complete in policy, data, how to become as a hikmah, regulation, formalize, then how IBF to conduct this da'wah, also integration with the value of Islam in economic. Okay, so there are a lot of things you mentioned in this 30 minutes. So I will open this session for our lecture, our staff, our administration, if any question or comment.
Maybe too much information.
Yeah, this is
This is my problem, Abdulmajid. This is always
Yeah.
my problem.
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Yes.
May I ask a question? Maybe Dr.
Please,
Ahmad?
please.
Yes.
Not only question, please
Yes.
tell me where did I go wrong. If I make a
Yeah,
mistake, please.
thank you,
Yeah.
Prof. Thank you, Prof. You make the day for today, mashallah. It was nice and beautiful. As we can see, your background also same. You know, in the floating our heart. As you mentioned, the man doesn't trust the woman doesn't trust the man. And then come back to the hadith as you mentioned, إنما العمل بالنيات من هاجر إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن هاجر إلى المرأة, I think he must. And then the concept of the an-nafaqa and the another concept of the, as you mentioned, al-maqasid, like, you know, habzun nasal. So combining all this tawhidic epistemological, like the belief and aqidah that we have. So dawah, when we relate with our, like, you know, an-nafaqa, like all this kind of the women, the sanctity, the family, the nasal, the generation. So is it, we may say, like, you know, maintaining the family, getting married, also is a part of dawah. We can say it like is the application of our, like, you know, our practical example in our life, that you know, as a model, you know. So it maintaining a good family, or, you know, children, and also having a good life, you know, family life in terms of, like, you know, personal. So is it like, as you mentioned about the financial matters, all these things. So may we say that this is a part of dawah and we can comply it into our, you know, obligation as being the da'i. Thank you, Prof.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I think you have brought me to a very important, from muamalat to munakahat. Yeah. But not my specialized area. Maybe some of my brothers are more specialized, you know, not only in knowledge but practice. But for me, what is very clear is anything that brings closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
Anything that brings closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's dawah. Okay. Because that is the essence. In fact, it was 3 o'clock this morning, 3:30 after I woke up. I said, okay, let me finish the slide. And I was working on it little bit. I said, today morning I have to finish it. So I said, when I look again at that first verse, you know, that I am very close to you, and we are always forgetful. I said, no, we have to have constant da'wah to ourselves first. All right, constant reminder to ourselves. So if you are advising a family, or if you are encouraging, and that is bringing closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with sakinah and all that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is da'wah. All right. It has to be limited to some track, some specific. Oh, this is da'wah, that is not da'wah. Da'wah and ibadah to me is something that is not separable at all. Yeah. Because once you take وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, yeah, that we are created as a servant and is an act of worship. I mean, that was the very reason why I joined UIA in 1985, right? Why I joined UIA? Because of this. I had to free myself from the secular environment that I was in. So how do I get it more integrated? So that actually will then put your mind, your thoughts, everything will then be aligned. No, inshallah. But sometimes, of course, we get distracted. It's normal, and then we come back again. Yeah. So yes, it is there. There's a question from Dr. Nazina. You want me to
Yes.
respond? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's okay. Maybe moderator, you have something that I'll respond to Dr. Nazina first. Yeah. So she asked, how could we appreciate the emergence of AI in the process of da'wah? Is it potentially beneficial for Islamic banking or not? Well, let's put it this way. Any good thoughts, any initiative will always be beneficial. All right. But we have to be mindful of the weaknesses and the limitations. You know, I don't know, those in AI will be very upset with me, especially those who like blockchain and so on. I still have a problem with the word artificial, you know, because why they choose artificial intelligence? Because even artificial sweetener now is more dangerous than sugar. All right. Of course, honey is the best, asal. Yeah. So why they use artificial? So I had a debate with some of those who have been teaching AI, and I said, I think it's automated intelligence, not artificial. At least I can give some respect, but they're not so happy with me because I make it so mechanistic. Because they go into cybernetic. Yeah, cybernetic is the word that was introduced when I learned about system analysis when I was doing ACCA. So cybernetic means you are able to adapt in a very flexible way. So when we want to bring this into da'wah, or it becomes a da'wah tool, yes, I think it's welcome. But at the same time, we know now that it's so much deception with AI, and you cannot control. All right. There's always a problem of choice between flexibility and conformity. Yeah. If you conform to certain principles, yes, you are a guide, but you may be limited. You want to have flexible, but you got to be very careful. So AI gives us all the flexibility, but we should not lose our direction. Wallah alam. That's my response. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, bro. Thank you. Any question, any comment? So there, just I have a question, bro. So
Yes.
you know, Muhammad Yunus is from Bangladesh. He wrote a book regarding to microfinance, and he create model, and the model became successful, and they get benefit from this ummah. Okay, so my question is how we became uh, innovative to create something new, to you can see reduce poverty, or create this fairness and justice. So sometimes just one model or one idea, maybe we can get benefit. So can you please highlight this issue?
Yes. I mean, sometimes, Brother Majid, it appears like one idea. Yeah.
Yes.
But actually, it is an eclectic, a coalition of many ideas. All right, before you reach to that idea. All right, that means whoever think about the idea must have thought about it many times repeatedly. All right, and to do that, you must be free from things that will distract you. All right, or things that will say, "Oh, you cannot do it." All right, you must have. I think there's one word I learned, himma. Right, you must have very strong himma. Yeah, that aspiration. That because if you just make dua and there's no himma to make it happen, it will stop there. All right, you have to translate it into something that you believe strongly, and then you act on it. So the idea also is the same. Yeah. Uh, when we talk about idea, I always fall into two categories. One, is the idea an assumption from an assumption? Yeah. Or is the idea from a principle?
Yes.
Okay, both can actually build. Both can actually build, but we have to develop the idea differently. Yeah, we have to see the methodology and so on. So really, if you ask me, yes, the opportunity for creativity, but the challenge of why we are not, because of this lack of himma, maybe. Yeah, and also because we just feel that, oh, this is too difficult, or many people will not like me, or something like that. I become a disruptor. I'm known for asking difficult question. brother. And sometimes they don't invite me again. I'm okay with that, no problem. Because I like to sit alone and rethink about the question that I ask. It's okay. But in the academic world, I encourage all these questions because this is where the interest will spark. Wallah, alam. Yeah.
جزاك الله خير حفظك الله. Any comment?
Yeah.
Any comment our college, professor, administration?
Dr. Majid,
Yes. Azman.
Assalamualaikum.
Warahmatullahi
First
wabarakatuh.
of all,
Alhamdulillah wabarakatuh.
thank you very much, Dr. Musa Alhabshi, for your insightful sharing. I think one of the points you mentioned just now about those policies, the negara, the regulators. I think there are times where when things are regulated, the adherence to the principles of the Sharia can be properly observed compared to those non-regulated. There were attempts, by institutions, for example, to introduce Sharia compliance product, financing products, microfinancing products, because since they were not regulated, we come across a lot of irregularities, a lot of strange things, and to the understanding, to make it Islamic, just put some names, adjustment here and there, but because they are not regulated. So I think you mentioned a very good point. By having this governance guidelines from the regulators, and also by having those statutory guidance. But I think another important point is nowadays, I think awareness among the Muslims, especially, to give up a haram. Like, for example, we have in the EPF, the pension fund. Still, there are still Muslim who are having their shares in the EPF. They don't switch to Islamic EPF, Islamic scheme. Even though the return, I think recently the return is almost the same, 6.5, I think. But can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
but the thing is,
Yes, Prof, we can hear you.
yeah. I think we have to do more in order to attract people, from time to time. Fadakir fa'inna dhikra tanfa'ul mu'minin. So it's supposed to be continuous. The good points, all the good points you mentioned about da'wah, I think it should be continuous, to remind each other from time to time. And even I think recently we had a chance to meet Yusuf Kharawi, our IIiBF team, and he mentioned also a case where he was shocked when he said there was a Muslim lecturer in the West, teaching in the West, who said that she was not aware that she has to pay zakat. So this is among the common things, I think, in the community. Sometimes people think they are Muslim, they are Islamic enough, but we have to do more, and we have to improve more from time to time. And as far as Islamic finance is concerned, as we said just now, there are still many who are not aware about the importance of giving up the prohibitions, the haram things, and try to do things according to the Sharia. Maybe you can comment more on that. Jazakallah khair.
Yes, Prof. MashaAllah.
Yes, I think it's what Prof. Azman has mentioned is happening, especially in the less regulated or non-regulated industry. It goes back to the motivation. Yeah, it goes back to the motivation. I think we have to accept that in Islamic finance industry, we are dealing with non-Muslims. Yeah. So when we deal with non-Muslims, we cannot expect them to have the same motivation. And also when we deal with fellow Muslims, we have different categories. Yeah, we have different levels of understanding, knowledge, and so on. Now, this is where it is also part of our responsibility to ensure this get across. So yes, I totally agree with you that a regulated environment proved to be more stable compared to a less regulated, especially when there's a lot of opacity. The word is opacity. And opposite of transparency is opacity in the banking world. Yeah, most of the things people do, you don't know until later stage. So the regulator has got to come in and make sure they are compliant and so on. So we need to have a balance there, but at the same time, Islamic finance has got to always come up with better solutions. All right, then it will attract both the principle as well as the economics of it. We have to attract, and therefore we have a bigger community, inshallah. Yeah.
Okay. We have
One last one maybe. Yeah. Because I have to leave for the meeting. Yeah.
Yes. Just if any comment. Okay, Prof.
I think we prefer to read the Quran, especially this Ramadan.
MashaAllah.
Inshallah. So thank you. Yeah.
Barakallahu fikum for this. Thank you everyone for attending this session, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our deeds and reward us in here and also in Akhirah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this session fruitful and available for everyone. Okay, so I would like to close this session by reading Surah Al-Asr and سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت العصر إن الإنسان في خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك الحمد لله جزاكم الله خير بروف. Thank you bro.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to everyone. Yeah.
Salam. Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Syed.
Thank you, Dr. Majid.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Dr. Syed, thank you, Dr. Majid.